What's up, gamers? Today I have a bit of a rant, an epic gamer rant, if you will, to deliver to you. Because this is not only is this an epic gamer rant because I'm an epic gamer, but also because it's on the topic of gaming, and that's what makes it a gamer rant. Because there's a few things that have kind of pissed me off lately, and I need to talk about them. About the state of the gaming industry as an industry, rightfully, and that kind of pissed me off, and I need to talk about it. So, two things actually happened to me recently. Well, not necessarily to me, but like around me. First thing first. I've been playing. I've started like kind of getting into Final Fantasy 14. Online, the MMO, the Final Fantasy MMO, right? And I'm playing the free trial, right? You can play up to level whatever. I'm not their odd person, but like you can play up to some level, right? Freely for free, and then you need to buy the game and start off a subscription. Well, that's like okay. First thing. That kind of pissed me off, but that's not what I'm here to talk about, is that you need to buy a game to then subscribe, which I mean, I guess, right. It makes some sense, first of all, as an economic model, but also like they give you whatever you paid for the game you get in subscription time. So that's whatever. I don't mind that as much. But two things about Final Fantasy XIV free trial. One, these fuckers, when you go to Mog Station, and little aside here, the fact that the account manager for what's it called, Square Enix Final Fantasy XIV whatever is called Mog Station is fucking awesome. Like, I really like that. It's really funny to me. Because obviously it was made for probably like in 2013 or whatever, but so they couldn't expect for it to mug to become a funny word, but that's funny to me. Like, let me show you my Mog Station account. I'm gonna mug you with my Mog Station account. So kind of funny, but like when you go to the Mog Station your Mog Station, right? It's where, for people who don't play this game, it's where you handle your subscription and stuff like that, right? So I go there, and it tells me that my account, even though it's a free subscription account, free trial account, it's available for Steam, Windows, PS5, PS4, and Xbox, right? Maybe not Xbox, because Xbox is weird, but anyways, so I'm like, why? I started my free trial on Steam, but I'm like, I have a PS5, I might as well, rot in my bed and play PS5, right? Like that sounds kind of fun, especially like this kind of brain dead MMO, and it's story focused, so it's kind of like watching a show sometimes. So I go download the 100 fucking gigabytes of this fucking game on my PS5, only to type my fucked up password with the PlayStation 5 controller, which is like, that's my problem, but kind of annoying. Only for it to tell me that free trial accounts can't go from Steam to PS5, which is fucked up, because on the Mog Station it tells me that I can. And like, okay, that's fine, I guess. I don't really need to rot in my bed playing MMOs. I have other things to do. I might as well just, go on my computer and rot on my computer. But that's fine. That's not even why I'm pissed off. The main reason is that if I want to play on my PS5, once I buy the game and start paying for a subscription, I need to buy another copy on my PC. But, and that's what's kind of fucked up, once you start paying on any account, the free trial ends on all your devices, but you still need to pay for the fucking PC version. And sure, you still end up with like whatever month of subscription you get, but like that's kind of annoying. I don't really like that, especially since, okay, once you start paying, the free trial ends, which I guess makes some sense, but like, what's the point of paying at some point? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna pay until I'm level 80 on all my jobs and classes, because what's the point? I know there's a lot of points, and they make sure to remind you sometimes, but that's kind of annoying. This whole thing is fucking bullshit, and I don't really even mind the subscription format of MMOs for a few reasons. Because it's like, it makes sure you have a good server, right? And that the game doesn't need to fucking shove a battle pass in your face, which I don't mind. That's why I don't mind, really. But there's other reasons I don't mind, which I won't go into because I'm pissed off and I don't want to get into shit that's like too complimentary of the gaming industry, right? So that happened with Final Fantasy XIV, and I guess I won't be playing it on my PS5 until I start paying. But then, okay, the makers and publishers of Final Fantasy XIV, Square Enix, which is a company I don't really mind because I'm a big fan of Dragon Quest as they publish Dragon Quest. So I was always kind of like, I like Square Enix. They make good games. But lately, if you don't know, Life is Strange, at least the second one, is published by Square Enix, which I didn't know, and I mean, it doesn't really fit with the kind of game they publish usually, but, you know, go off. My dad started playing it. It was first released as an episodic format, yes, episodic format in 5 episodes, and someone lent my dad a copy of the game, a physical copy of the game. Naturally, we don't really look at the fucking box, because, you know, we just put it in the fucking PS4 and run it, right? But and he plays it without too many problems, because it's fucking a boring game. I mean, sorry if you like the game, but I don't like it, and I've never played it for a reason. But, you know, besides the fucking boredom, the snooze fest, if you will, no problem until Act 4. He stops playing at Act 4, and like he sets down the controller for the next day, and is like, yeah, I'm gonna finish the game tomorrow. Fast forward to this morning, when he's like, what the fuck, what's happening? The game is asking him to pay for the 5th chapter, because, get this, the 4 first chapters are on the CD, which you might expect, but the 5th and last chapter was not on the CD, which is crazy, right? Because, like, who does that? And there was a big scandal relatively recently with Nintendo, right, where they, instead of putting a cartridge in your physical copy of a game, they put a code, and like everybody was rightfully pissed off, and they went back on it and they said, like, yeah, we're gonna stop doing that. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of a Nintendo thing to do, right? And the cartridges are very expensive to make, so I kind of understand, even though I don't agree with it, I kind of understand their thought process. But like a fucking CD, like, it's the 21st century, and it's been for at least a quarter of a century, right? So the CDs are not necessarily a new technology. They're actually quite old, and people don't really buy them anymore. So, you know what I mean? Like, we have an excess of CDs. CDs nuts, by the way. And so why? So yeah. Go back to my tale. They sold the first 4 chapters on the CD, and the 5th chapter as digital redeem code, which is bullshit because it's only usable once, and because someone let the game, he could only play it once. He couldn't play it. He couldn't finish unless he paid. He went in the PlayStation store and gave them whatever $15. But first of all, the game is fucking boring, so that's not gonna happen. But also out of principle, that's fucked up. So that's evil, I think. I mean, the only reason you would do that is because you're evil, right? You don't want people to play your game, also because it's already so fucking boring that you're you don't get to do that when you make Life is Strange 2. You know what I mean? If you're a good game, Baldur's Gate could do that, and maybe I would fucking resentfully pay. But I would probably pay because I need to know the end of the game, right? But Life is Strange doesn't get to do that. Can you imagine Toby Fox? You're yeah, I bought all your Deltarunes or whatever and the collector's edition, but psych, the last chapter, you have to pay for it anyways. People would fucking kill him. And people already want to kill him for much less than that. So why haven't people killed Square Enix, basically? I obviously don't do that. But stop buying their games. And if you're like me and you like their games anyway, don't pay for them. Just play them anyways, but don't pay for them. And also don't play fucking Life is Strange. I mean, do whatever you want. I don't care. But boycott their ass is what I'm saying. But you can boycott them and still play their games, because there are such things as what's the old old school town where pirates used to live? I forget. Something Arbor. I don't fucking know. There was a famous cove. There was a cove where pirates used to reside, and there are such things online when you can find pilfered goods, if you will. And I'm not going to say any more than that, obviously. You know what I mean, probably. If you don't, do a little bit of research, please. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of all I had to say. I'm having fun playing and discovering this Final Fantasy XIV MMO, even though I'm kind of annoyed. But it's okay. This is the most zoomer shit you're ever gonna fucking hear, but I'm gonna say it anyway. These MMOs kind of remind me of gacha games, but multiplayer, and I mean that's some real zoomer shit. And I admit that it is kind of zoomer brain to say that, but gosh dang, is that not true? Because I mean, gacha games kind of copied the MMO gameplay loop and put it in mostly multiplayer games or co-op games, and we're yeah, look at this new way of gaming. And I mean, I hate that shit up, you know what I mean? And I'm back. I'm going back in time now to eat up some more slop. Old school slop, though. I mean, someone should study the effect. I've been playing, Final Fantasy XIV is an old ass game. I mean, by my standards, and there's kind of a fun factor to playing old games where I mean, okay, the biggest. The time I felt it most was when I played Deadly Premonition, because it was already kind of a shit game when it came out, but when you go back to it, there's this old school factor that makes it almost good, you know what I mean? And it feels nostalgic, even though I mean I was way too young to play these games when it first came out, but I think this shit should be studied because old school games feel better than they actually are sometimes, I feel. Because even if you haven't played them because of nostalgia, right? Because you're like, that's kind of impressive that he could do that back then, or stuff like that. Like I found myself kind of like looking at the armor models of the NPCs in Final Fantasy XIV, and I was like, damn. Even though that's by today's standards, that's nothing. But like, even though by today's standards, it's nothing. People don't do this shit anymore. People like serve you slop, and you're like, yeah, more slop, please. And I feel like, you know, back then it was like, yeah, wow, that's crazy. But now we're like, take my 2D non-modeled like fucking texture overlaid upon character, like with some form of normal map that makes it look like it's 3D, but actually it's not 3D. Or on the other side, take my scanned-in actors, and that's okay. Since this is a rant video, I'm gonna end it on another rant, and a rant that's like a little less topical for me, but that kind of pisses me off anyway. And it's about AAA gaming, and I don't do a lot of AAA gaming because of that, and because of many other things. But because first of all, I fucking hate the gaming industry, and playing AAA games only helps it grow. But like, there's this trend of scanning in actors as characters in video games. Makes it I feel like there's this huge trend in gaming that strive to make gaming less like gaming and more like movies. Like, it feels like to be accepted as a legitimate art form and legitimate whatever, it needs to become a movie. And to do that, they do whatever the fuck. Like, they make it a movie, and that's not why I'm playing video games. Obviously, nobody plays video games because they want to watch a movie. Otherwise, you would watch a fucking movie, because most movies are better than video games in terms of like narration, acting, everything. But so they're shit movies, right? But they're not games, not good games either. You know what I mean? Like, they fail at everything they attempt to do, because in their attempt at becoming Cinema 2.0, they're completely forgetting that they need to be video games 1.0. So they go back to some fucking rudimentary gaming tech that's like shit, where the only time and money that's spent on the game is scanning in actors and shit like that. But because most of the time it's not big actors or like any fucking talented actors or whatever, you end up with a shit product, a shit art piece, a shit piece. And that's why AAA gaming is fucking doomed, because it doesn't know, and it can't be a video game, because movies have kind of established themselves as like the art form, modern art form at least. And it's like, if you want to be a good art form, you need to be a movie, otherwise you're shit. And because gaming is kind of like seen as a kid stuff, like playing is in our society associated with children, and you don't want to be a child, therefore you don't play games. But video games have proved that playing is not necessarily only for children. But you know, you need to act as though what you're doing is not playing. And what is that? That ends up being like, yes, I'm not playing, I'm experiencing art. And the only way you can justify it to yourself is by saying it's a movie. It's like a movie. You know, movies are very good. Movies are hard. Everybody agrees with that. And therefore, it's not a waste of time to watch movies. But playing video games is seen as a waste of time, unless you're like, it's a movie. And it ends up, but like, it ends up being a shit movie and a shit game. And so that's kind of like the modern day video game industry doesn't know what the fuck it is, and therefore ends up making slop for pigs. and it's shit. And most of the time, I mean, there are some diamonds in the rough, if you will. Some people, because people who work at AAA companies like know their shit. They're not like that. Obviously, this is like the global perception, but like individuals still work on these games as games and enjoy making it, enjoy playing games and stuff like that. So sometimes it ends up being good or even passable, or like you play a game and you're like, yeah, this part was good, but like you see that it was kind of kept from fully burgeoning into a good idea, and you're like, yeah, it's boring after a while. And I think I could say this quote from Northern Lion a fucking million times over, is that I don't want to play a game for 150 hours because it lasts 150 hours, because it's like a movie. It needs to be a movie, it needs to be a TV show. But I want to play a game for 150 hours because a run lasts an hour and I want to run it 150 times. And like this, and that's the quote. And you can extend it to like long games that are not like run dependent. If you make the gameplay loop inside it worth replaying 100 times, even if you're trying to write a story through video gaming and you want to make a 150 hours games, you don't need to think of a 150 other stories first. You need to find a gameplay loop that, one, fits the story, and two, is playable for 150 hours, because otherwise you end up like with a passable story, but nobody wants to fucking play your game because it's boring. And like that's how you end up with AAA gaming, in my opinion. But I mean, yeah, that's all I have to say, probably, because otherwise I'm gonna get heated, and I don't really have any more to say. Anyways, bye bye.